DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy. This show right here, this masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is no professional job is easy. The reason why this topic exists is because I made a video posted on YouTube not too long ago, and I was talking about overseas basketball, and I was kind of in the end of my conversation, whatever the point it was that I was talking about playing professional basketball, I made the point to people that these days, as a full-time CEO and entrepreneur myself, I can definitely say that being a professional athlete was an easier job than it is to be an entrepreneur or to be a CEO. Not to say that playing basketball is easy in itself, but it was an easier job, again, just by the sheer amount of time that is required to be a CEO or entrepreneur to get something going when you're trying to create momentum versus being an athlete. As an athlete, there's only so much that you can work over the course of a day because your body is your entire business. An athlete can't train for 8 hours a day. No matter what stories you heard about any of your favorite athletes, no athlete can train that much in a day. And my whole point that I was making again was just telling people, listen, this is a job that you may want to try to go get because you're never going to have a job that is easier than being a professional athlete, or every job that you get subsequently before or after being a professional athlete. The better way of saying it would be you'll never have every job you have after being an athlete would be harder than your job of being an athlete. That's the better way of saying it. Not even that I don't want to put easy and being a basketball player in the same sentence, as if I don't want anyone to think that it's easy just because you're just throwing a ball in a hoop, even though literally that is all you're doing. That doesn't mean it is simple, but it is easy. All that being said, easier rather than being an entrepreneur. All that being said, there was some guy who's a basketball player who heard what I said in the video, and he went and left a comment. And he was replying, not even so much to me personally, but he was replying and letting everyone who read the comment know, well, look, being a basketball player, even though, Dre, you're right, that we only work 2 to 4 hours a day, but there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into that, a lot of time, a lot of training, a lot of this and a lot of that. And he was basically building the case for how being a professional athlete may look easy on the outside, looking in, but at the same time, there is a whole lot of effort and time and investment that goes into it, for which he was correct. And then he followed that up. He ended his comment by saying, to me, this is him talking, to me, people who work in office buildings and have jobs like that, their job is easy. So his retort was, well, their job is a lot easier actually than the job that we have, because all they got to do is sit at a computer and use their fingers all day, or talking to a camera, or whatever equivalency he was trying to draw. Now, I understood his mindset because he hasn't had any other job. From what I understood about this gentleman, because he had left a comment before and I saw some of his material, so I had an understanding of who he was. He was a basketball player his whole life. He went to school, graduated from school, got a job as a basketball player, and that's the only job that he's had thus far in his adult life. Therefore, first of all, he was not qualified, and I let him know this. I replied to his comment. I let him know that he was unqualified to make such a statement because he did not have the experience to speak on what was easy outside of being a basketball player, because the only experience he had was being a basketball player. Now, while I understood his position, he was kind of defending his job. Maybe he was feeling, I don't know, some type of feelings, maybe we'll get into that, some type of feeling about anyone intimating that his job may not be so hard because all he does is play basketball, quote unquote. I understand that position, but at the same time, every job, ladies and gentlemen, is a job, capital J, capital O, capital B, for a reason. I talked about this in masterclass number 1105, what makes the job a job. And what we're going to talk about here today is that no professional job is, quote, easy, close quote. No matter how easy it may look from the outside looking in, no matter how easy you may think someone else's job is because you think you work way harder than other people in other professions, I'm going to set you straight here today and make it clear to you that any job that you get into as a professional, when you're being paid, is not as easy as it may look or as it may appear or even as someone else may make it seem to be. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is that no professional job is easy. For nearly every job that you know of, but you have not actually done yourself. It means you heard of it, you've seen it, maybe you know somebody who does it, but you personally has not done it. Understand that most of the work is unseen. Let me repeat what I just said. For every job that you know of but have not done yourself, it means you see the finished product, you see the front-facing parts of that job. Most of the work is unseen. It's the stuff that you, outsider, you, spectator, do not see and probably don't know about. And even if you do know about it, you don't really know about it because you haven't done it. And you know what I like to say, if you haven't done it, you don't actually know it. If you think playing ball, any kind of ball, baseball, football, basketball, or any other kind of sport, hockey, track, swimming, if you think that sport is just the games, you know that that's not actually the case. I mean, you probably have an idea that basketball players have to practice and football players have training camp and baseball players have all of the kinds of things that they do outside of the game schedule. You know, you don't really know. You know, but you don't really know what else goes into it. And until you're on the inside, you never will. If you think podcasting, for example, someone who has any podcast you listen to that's actually a good one, you think all podcasting is just turn on the mic and just talk whatever shit comes to mind? It's not that. There's a lot more to it than, again, what meets the eye. Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich, and one of his lectures that I listen to, and you can find his lectures on all streaming music platforms. They're out there available, open, and technically not free, but if you are subscribed to a streaming service, you can listen to it. He told the story of how once he was talking to Andrew Carnegie, and Andrew Carnegie, who was one of the first, I believe, maybe the first billionaire in the United States, the first millionaire or billionaire, one of those. But Andrew Carnegie was telling Napoleon Hill that his whole job in putting together the business running the business that he ran, Andrew Carnegie, the one that made him rich, that his job was organizing a mastermind of a bunch of different people who were all experts in different areas that allowed him and them, that company, to manufacture and market steel. Andrew Carnegie was a steel magnate. And Andrew Carnegie told Napoleon Hill, he confessed, I guess you can say, to Napoleon Hill, that he personally, Andrew Carnegie, knew nothing about the manufacturing or the marketing of steel. Nothing at all. Even though he was the richest guy in the country, maybe the richest guy in the world, through making and selling steel. So Napoleon Hill said to him, so all you do here, Mr. Carnegie, is organize this mastermind of all these different people to all come together and work together in a spirit of harmony to make sure that this business runs smoothly. That's all you do? And the way Napoleon Hill asked the question, according to Napoleon Hill's retelling of the story, is that he made it seem like he was not very impressed by the fact that that's all Andrew Carnegie had to do in the operation. And then he said, Andrew Carnegie responded to him and said, and he could tell by Napoleon Hill's tone, he said, why don't you try getting even 5 people to agree on one thing, let alone many things, for any period of time, and you'll see for yourself what kind of job it is. And the point that Andrew Carnegie was making and Napoleon Hill was transferring to his audience in his lecture when he told that was that, he was making a smaller point, but I'm extrapolating it to a bigger point, that what looks easy from the outside looking in can look easy for several reasons. First of all, number one, maybe your subconscious just wants you to think a job is easy, so that it gives you more reason to go and try and get it. Maybe the person whom you're watching who is doing that job is so good, so skilled, and so smooth at what they do that they make it look easy, but it's not actually easy. And I talked about this when you had the word professional next to your name. You're expecting not only to do your job, but to make it look like you could do a whole lot more than just your job. Even though you may not be able to, you want to make it look like you can. As I told you the story, I was playing ball in Germany and the agent said to me, I wasn't impressed by your performance because it looked like you were trying too hard to succeed. Even though I was succeeding, he said, well, you tried too hard to get your success. And I thought he was crazy, but the point that he was making was you got to make it look easy when you're a professional. And Andrew Carnegie was letting Napoleon Hill know, like, yes, all I do, quote unquote, is this one thing. But this one thing is not as easy as I make it look, or maybe it sounds when I'm explaining it to you. And this is why, as we move on to point number 2, today's topic is no professional job that is easy. This is why, point number 2, any job or career you are considering, I would suggest you get an inside view of what's going on in that career before you jump all the way in. Test the waters and find out what's actually going on before you decide to get in, because once you decide that you're in, you might have to stay there for a little while, or you may not have any other options, so you won't have a choice but to stay there for a little while. So maybe go do an internship. Internship is when you go as a person who is not in, but you are halfway in, you got one foot in. You get to basically work for the company Maybe it can be unpaid. Maybe it'll be for college credits. Maybe you can get a little bit of money as the intern. And you just basically get to do maybe gopher work, maybe little side work, little entry job work. Simply so you can help them out by doing those things, taking those small tasks off someone's hands. But at the same time, you get to learn the business, you get to find out what's going on. And maybe if you're impressive enough as an intern, you'll get offered a full-time position. You can hustle your way into a full-time position, either where you're interning or somewhere else in that industry, or maybe you can just leverage that internship to just show that you have some experience that you can get into whatever it is you want to get into in the future. Go shadow somebody. If you're looking at any job or career and you're not quite sure what it's really about, and if you haven't been in, you're not sure what it's really about. Even if you think you're sure, you're not. Go shadow someone who is already on the inside and find out what that job is really about and how it really goes before you decide that that's where you want to commit yourself, before you decide that's what you want to do with your life. Because what you may, and I think you will find out, is that that job is not as easy or as fun as it looks on the inside as it may appear on the outside. It may appear easy, it may appear very fun on the outside, but on the inside, there's a little bit of work that goes into it. There's some effort that you gotta put into it. There's some hustle. All right, there's some job. There's some J-O-B, capital J, capital O, capital B that goes into that job that, again, they're not gonna tell you from the outside, but once you get in on the inside, you'll see that that's what it's about. I remember the movie Forrest Gump. Any of you ever saw that movie Forrest Gump with Tom Hanks? If you remember the part, and if you didn't see the movie, I'm gonna paint the picture so you understand it. There was this part where Forrest, who was the main character of the movie, he decided to enlist in the armed services. And this is around the time, I believe it was, the way the story was set was Forrest enlisted in the armed service right before the Vietnam War was set to begin. So he signs up for the military, and of course there's this military recruiter guy who approaches him and talks up the military and tells him why it'd be a great honor for him, Forrest, to represent his country and fight for his country and do this. And you know, the little pamphlets that the military guy was giving out, and they got Forrest Gump to sign up for the military. So he signs up for the military and he's all excited. Yeah, I'm gonna represent my country. And the military guy, the recruiter who had been talking to him, was very nice and respectful and polite to Forrest when he got him to sign up. And then Forrest comes to the day when he actually joins the military. And that day there was a bus that came, like a school bus type of bus, drove up to his house to pick him up, and it was driving around and picking up all the new recruits for the military. So I remember Forrest gets on the bus when this military bus pulls up with him and to pick up him, and it has a bunch of the other new recruits already on the bus. Forrest walks onto the bus, and he's this pleasant, really nice kid. And he walks on the bus, and the driver of the bus, he has on his military gear as well, his fatigues on. And Forrest walks up to the driver and he says, "Hello, my name is Forrest Gump." He's just being this pleasant, polite guy that he was. And the military guy who was driving the bus just starts screaming at Forrest Gump. I don't remember if he stood up out of his chair or not, but he starts screaming at Forrest Gump like, "Don't talk to me." I can't even remember what he was saying, but he just started basically growling at Forrest Gump. He was talking to him, but he was talking really fast. He was yelling in his face and basically being how any of you who's never been in the military, you think the military is like when you're on the inside. That's what the guy started doing. And I always remember that scene because it was like when they were recruiting Forrest to join the military, they were all nice and polite and respectful. But as soon as he was in, all of a sudden he realized what that job was really going to be about. And I think maybe some people who join might decide, you know what, maybe I made the wrong choice while they're riding that bus. I've never been there, but shout out to the people who have done it and they made their way through it. And that's the kind of thing that everyone probably goes through when you get into a serious profession. And that job is, again, may look very shiny and sexy on the outside, but once you get on the inside, you see, oh, there's actual work that needs to be done here. You realize that it may not be as sexy as it looks. I remember when I had gotten out of college and I was looking for a job opportunity. I obviously had been an athlete in college, so I would look at job listings on these websites like monster.com, careerbuilder.com. I don't know if these websites even still exist. But I hate these websites to this day because of the time I spent on them back then when I got out of college. But I remember once or twice, it had to happen at least twice. I clicked on the job listing that said, "Oh, we're looking for like former athletes or people who are competitive," but it would mention athletes. And being I was an athlete, I said, perfect. All right, they're looking for former athletes. Maybe this is a sports-based job. I would love to do a sports-based job. It'd be better than any of the other jobs that I'm looking at and considering and applying to on this damn website. So I would click on these listings, and it would basically say, it would be kind of vague as to what the job was about. It would say very competitive pay, it's performance-based pay. If you're a person who likes to be paid based on the way you perform and you're a driven, motivated, disciplined individual who's all about winning and competing and success, this is the kind of job that we want you for. And then you would submit whatever information you submit. They would contact you back and tell you that they're having interviews on this day. Usually it'd be like the next day. We just happen to be having interviews tomorrow. Perfect timing for you, gentlemen, sir, lady. So then you would go down to the interview. And I remember these places would be in these impressive looking office buildings, usually somewhere in a downtown area or in some kind of big office building where there were a lot of offices, but the office would look really nice. There'd be pictures on the wall of maybe places someone has traveled or sports-based photos. And then the person who was doing the interview, actually before you even get into the interview, you would walk into the room where you're there for the interview. You think that it's for you, right? You got contacted for a job interview. You're like, yeah, I got me a job interview. I'm gonna do my thing. And then you get there, and then you walk into a lobby, a waiting room type area, and there's 4, 5, 6, 8 other people who are also sitting there, and you're like, damn. At that exact moment, I would walk in and realize, damn, they got me. I'm not the only person that they hooked in with this sales pitch, and I didn't know any better because I'm just fresh out of college. I don't know. I can't discern when there's one of these group interview pitches and when it's something that they're really interested in me. I didn't know any better, so I found myself getting hooked in. And then we finally go into the job interview. It was like 4 of us at the same time, and the person is kind of talking to us as if he's trying to evaluate us instead of us evaluating him. It was a very well-crafted pitch, the way they would put things together, and they try to position you, or they try to frame the conversation in such a way that you have to win them over instead of them winning you over. And they finally let you know what the job is. It's basically an outside sales job. You would use your own car or take public transportation, whatever you got to do. You're going around to, I can't remember exactly what was being sold, but you realize by the end of the interview, like, okay, this is not some fun and games. It has nothing to do with sports, actually. Maybe the person who is the hiring person, the interviewer, maybe they played sports, maybe they're interested in sports, maybe one of their clients is a sports team, but you're not going to be playing sports. Okay, you're gonna have on business casual clothing, and you're gonna be making cold calls, driving around in your own car, and the pay is damn near 100% commission. So it's not as sexy as it looks from the outside looking in. But the whole point is, this is how a lot of professions are. They will let you know the sexy part to get you interested, but then they show you the dirty part only after you get the job. So make sure you do your research and know exactly what's going on before you get yourself into something that you find yourself wanting to get out of, but it may be too late. Point number 3, today's topic is no professional job. Professional job is easy. Point number 3, until you have walked a mile in the shoes of another individual, you will always be, and you are and will always be, unqualified to judge that person or to judge what they do. Remember that your perspective is not the only perspective out there. Be smart, and remember the key word in the title to today's episode, professional job. And remember what I told you about being a professional. When you're a professional, your job is not easy, but your job is to make it look easy. I talked about this in masterclass number 931. What is expected of you when professional is next to your name? Any of you who plans on becoming a professional and you don't know what the expectations are going to be, go listen to masterclass number 931. Any of you who is a professional, and even though you're a professional, you're being paid for your job, you're still not quite sure what's expected of you. You're still not quite sure what people want from you. You're still not quite sure what will make you shine in your job. Go and listen to masterclass number 931 in the gang group and find out what is expected of you when professional is next to your name. You will be expected to deliver no matter the circumstances, no matter how you feel, no matter what day of the week it is, no matter if it's raining outside. It's raining outside right now while I'm recording this. You got to still do your job, even if you're tired, even if you don't feel like it, even if fill in the blank with whatever could happen in life. I mean, everybody here has had stuff happen in your life. No matter what that stuff is happening in your life, it is your job to still do your job. Why? Because you're being paid for it. Why? Because there are people depending on you. Why? Because you're the professional. All right, the professional's job is to do the things that the amateurs ain't capable of doing or don't want to do. That is not easy, but it is the job that you signed up for. And if you didn't know, now you know. And maybe you're reconsidering the job that you signed up for, but that's the job that you're in. If you didn't know, again, I just filled you in. Maybe you need to make some changes. Maybe you need to step your game up. Maybe you need to find another profession. Who knows? Maybe you need to go backwards to amateur. Whatever you need to do, do it. But you have all the information now, so you are no longer ignorant of the ease, quote unquote ease, of a professional job. Let's recap today's class, which is no professional job is easy. Again, I talked on this topic because I'm an overseas basketball player, in defiance of what I was saying about pro basketball being the easiest job that you will ever have. He was trying to explain how pro basketball is not easy and how office jobs are easy, but he didn't know any better. But I'm giving you all the better today. Point number one, for nearly every job that you know of but have not done yourself, most of the work is unseen. So whatever you think the work is, you don't know what the work is because you ain't been on the inside. Point number two, any job or career you're considering, make sure you find out exactly what goes on the inside before you jump in. Go do an internship, go shadow somebody who already has a job, find out what it's really about and how it really goes before you decide what it really is going to be, kind of so you don't get shell shocked like Forrest Gump did when he got on that military bus. Point number three, until you're walked in a mile in the shoes of another person, you are unqualified to judge them and you're unqualified to judge what they do. Your perspective is not the only perspective out there, so be smart. And remember that the key word in this title is professional. When you're a professional, as I talked about in masterclass number 931, what is expected of you is that the job is not easy, but it's expected that you make it look easy. You must deliver no matter the circumstances, no matter how you feel. That is not easy, but you got to do it. Work on your game. Dre all day.